Jewish settlers attack the IDF, and government ministers are calling for annexation. What's going on in Judea and Samaria? Hi, I'm Hanan Lischinsky. Welcome to All Israel News Update. And today I'm going to try to explain a bit about what's going on in the areas that are internationally known as the West Bank, but here in Israel, and friends and supporters of Israel call it Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of the Jewish people and the nation of Israel. Now, obviously, a lot of the attention during the last couple of months, even almost for 2 years now, has been on Gaza, the Gaza Strip. Then there was a conflict in Lebanon. Now the campaign with Iran, the so-called 12-day war. But all of this seems to be behind us now, or is about to be behind us, with ceasefire negotiations in the Gaza Strip advancing, positive signals being sent both by Israel and by Hamas. And now attention is slowly going back to Judea and Samaria, to what's going on there. And this is, of course, the long simmering heart of this conflict, of the conflict between Israel and the Arabs here in the region, the Palestinians. This is, of course, the core issue of this whole conflict, and it has never gone away, even with attention being on Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, and all of the other big problems that Israel is facing or has faced over the past months. And this is something that we can see demonstrated in recent reports over the past days, that President Trump and the Israeli government are working on a broad plan to resolve almost all of the outstanding issues here in the region. And a critical part of this plan would try to solve the issue of Judea and Samaria. It would, according to the reports that we have, would give Israel the right to annex part of Judea and Samaria, while also committing Israel to announcing a kind of readiness. From the reports we have, it appears that this is meant to be a declarative statement at the moment, but a readiness to agree to a Palestinian state on parts of Judea and Samaria. Now, with this general introduction out of the way, let's get into what has happened here in Judea and Samaria over the past couple of days. And the headline-grabbing incidents are, of course, what is generally being called in the media settler violence. So violence perpetrated by Israeli citizens who live in the areas that are internationally defined as Judea and Samaria. The definition is made by using the green line, the so-called green line. And the phenomenon we're talking about here is that a very small fringe part of truly extremist part of these settlers, mostly these being very extreme youth, a part of what is called the hilltop youth. These people have been perpetrating violence, and their violent incidents have increased for almost 2 years now, over the span of the war, of the October 7 war that was started by Hamas. But they have again spiked over the last week. And one phenomenon that we've seen also increase, and that now has led to a big rise in attention, has been attacks by these people, by these extremist youth settler groups, against IDF soldiers that are meant to protect the settler population, the Israeli population in Judea and Samaria. Now, this is, of course, in addition to the increase that I mentioned in violent incidents. And in most of these incidents, the targets are not IDF soldiers, but Palestinian civilians, Palestinian residents of these same areas that often live in neighboring villages. Now, the attacks on IDF soldiers and IDF bases have drawn widespread condemnation, while some of the political representatives of the settler movement have sometimes tried to avoid condemning these kind of incidents. In this case, when they're targeting IDF soldiers, the condemnation has been swift and broad by almost every of the political as well as civilian representatives of the settler movement. However, the incidents of violence against the Palestinian civilians, again, have often gone either unaddressed or have seen only weak condemnations. For example, by National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who in the past, before he started his political career, served as a lawyer, often representing exactly this kind of population, even in some instances where these kind of people attacked Christian monasteries, attacked Christian civilians, and so on. So there's a whole complexity there that I won't get into just now. but you're welcome to follow All Israel News. We'll try to give you more explainers, analysis of what's going on with this movement, this part of Israeli society. So as mentioned, this issue that is often being portrayed by international media as very black and white does have some complexity, of course. Violence against civilians, against innocent civilians of all kinds, be they Jews or Arabs, is to be condemned. When we're listening to these hilltop views, to these extremist fringe groups of settlers, what they often say is that when they carry out these acts of violence, it's often in revenge, either directly or after a time, after civilians from the areas, from the villages that are being attacked, carried out terror attacks against Israeli citizens and Jews in those same areas. So on the ground, these areas have really been in turmoil. The last few days have seen a lot of, as we said, these kind of clashes, these violent clashes. The IDF has established a new task force together with the intelligence service Shin Bet in order to deal with this growing phenomenon. But on the other side, if we're looking at the political landscape and at the political level, things have been moving there as well in regards to Judea and Samaria. Now we're filming this on Thursday evening. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to fly to the White House to visit with President Donald Trump at the start of next week. But ahead of his departure, all of the Likud ministers signed a letter calling on Prime Minister Netanyahu, who is also the chairman of the Likud party, called on him to declare Israel's sovereignty, to annex effectively Judea and Samaria as soon as possible and before the end of the current Knesset session, which will end in a couple of weeks. Many of the international media coverage has much has focused on this. There have been the usual condemnations by Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and others. However, if we're looking at this on the first glance, you might see all of these issues as connected. However, in my opinion, if we're looking at this statement, this declaration, this is more of a political move. Even though it is Likud ministers, there is some weight behind it, but this is not a policy issue. This is not a bill in the Knesset. And so for now, this is only a declaration, but it is an important signal that even the ministers within the Likud party, which is not the right fringe of the government, even they are really saying that at this time, there is no sense in recognizing a Palestinian state. There is no sense in Israel giving away part of these areas, and Israel really has to be in security control of Judea and Samaria for the coming years. This is something that has become more and more a consensus view here in Israel, especially after October 7, really showed the danger of large areas being ruled by terrorists, large areas that are very close to Israel's population centers. And so again, we're filming this here on the outskirts of Jerusalem. And the border, this green line, the border to these areas is only like 2 or 3 kilometers away on the map. So it's a small country, and these things really are important. Now, a last thought on all of this. We mentioned at the outset that President Trump reportedly, again, there has been no official confirmation, wants to advance this big, broad plan that also includes Abraham Accords, includes a peace in Gaza, but also includes the annexation of parts of Judea and Samaria by Israel. I just want to mention that at this moment, it seems highly unlikely that even with the support of President Trump, Israel will go ahead and just declare sovereignty, just annex parts of Judea and Samaria. We're, after almost 2 years of the Gaza war, Israel's standing across the world has been eroded, unfortunately. Many former allies and friendly states have turned against Israel over these past months. And let's just say it would be a very, very big, very risky political step to declare Israeli sovereignty over parts of Judea and Samaria now. However, we also have to mention we're just after Prime Minister Netanyahu, took a very courageous, brave decision to go to war with Iran. So maybe he feels like more brave decisions are on the table for now. We'll see, but what is for sure is, as I said at the outset, the issue of Judea and Samaria will come back into focus more and more as the Gaza war is possibly wrapping up. Lebanon is more quiet. Syria is more quiet. The Iran threat is maybe dealt with for now. And so as Israel is turning its focus away from these areas, Judea and Samaria will once again come into focus and once again will prove critical for Israel's security. Thank you for joining us today for another All Israel News update. If you want more information, check out the other videos on this channel. Visit us at allisraelnews.com for more information, more in-depth articles and updates about Israel and the Middle East.